Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cherry Blossom Home Edition. I'm presidential historian Larry Cook. It's a pleasure to be talking with my friend Kim Carter Fuller from Plains, Georgia. Kim is the niece of President Jimmy Carter, and she's also the daughter of President Carter's brother, Billy. Welcome, Kim. Great to talk to you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be on tonight.
Well, what we'd like to start with here is just tell us a little bit about yourself and the many hats that you wear in Plains, Georgia.
Well, I am a retired school teacher. I taught school for 31 years. And once I retired, I knew that I wasn't old enough to just sit down on the porch. And so after a few years went by, I was given the opportunity to become the executive director of the Friends of Jimmy Carter National Historic Site. And so I was the chairman of the board for several years and then became the director. So I have the best job in the whole wide world because I'm downtown all the time, and we just recently merged with the Plains Better Hometown program. And so not only do we raise money for the National Historic Site here in Plains, but we also have a cafe and an inn and an antique mall and other small things downtown. And so we're in charge of what goes on downtown right now. And it, like I said, it's the most wonderful job in the world.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, you do a great job with that because, as you know, I'm in Plains a lot, and I see the results of your work there, and it's great. Everything that you and so many other people do there to keep Plains, Georgia, such a nice town for visitors to come to. And
well, thank you. Yeah.
And I
well,
also
we're passionate about it.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, and that's a great thing. I also know another hat that you wear there, that you teach Sunday school.
Yes, I do. I am President Carter's substitute. So, yes, I do teach Sunday school. I'm teaching remotely right now. I think you've tuned in once or twice, too, to hear us. So we have a good time with that. I enjoy it. I'm very blessed to be able to do that.
Well, you do a great job at it. Yeah, we tune in every Sunday to listen to you, and it's really nice, and it's great that you're doing that, remotely for everyone, because you're getting people from all over the country that's listening to you. The Jimmy Carter National Historic Site is slated to become Jimmy Carter National Park. Is that right?
That's correct. As soon as Congress gets back up there, I think that's one of the things that they're going to start working on. Yeah.
Great. And what does the future look like for the Friends of Jimmy Carter?
We'll have to change our names, of course, the Friends of Jimmy Carter National Park. But as far as anything else goes, we'll just rock along like we're doing. Hopefully that'll give us more of an opportunity to talk to some other donors. We have a lot of major donors who work with us, and but we'll be doing pretty much the same thing we've always done.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about Plains. Just happens to be my favorite place to be, in my adopted hometown, as I call it. And I think it's got more history than any other small town in America. Could you just tell me a little bit about the town itself?
Well, you talking about in today's time or back in the past, or a combination of both?
Right now in today's time, and then we're going to talk about in the past a little bit too. But
okay.
I know you have a population of about 700 to 750, and
yes, we do. We have about 750, 760 citizens here, and we're a very small town feel. As far as we have several businesses here. We have a pharmacy, we have a vet, we have a Mercer Medical clinic here, but we have an inn, an antique mall. But one thing about Plains now is that the downtown area pretty much all works together to try to make things happen, and we all feel like we're invested in what's going on. We have several churches here. We just it's a place that people come to. Like you said, you feel like it's your adopted hometown, and we have a lot of people who feel that way. We had a young couple come in. I mentioned this in Sunday school the other day, looking to have a wedding here because we do have a community center, and weddings are what we do there a lot of times. And the young man just had such a good feeling about Plains. He said it's just a peaceful town, and we like that about us. The park, of course, is phenomenal for us because visitors come, and we know that they're coming here to see what the National Historic Site has to offer to them, and hoping to get a glimpse of President and Mrs. Carter as they're walking around downtown, which doesn't happen very much now, but in the past it was happening all the time. But we try our best to give our visitors a piece of Plains that they can take home with them. I'm not talking about something that they can hold in their hand, but at least a feeling that they've been somewhere pretty special, because that's what we think Plains is really special.
Well, I can attest to that. It is very special, and as I mentioned, we love being there. So, talk a little bit about you had asked me that a minute ago, that about how the town was years ago or how it is now, but that's what I'd like to talk about, is how the town changed when Jimmy Carter decided he was going to run for president.
Oh wow. There were times in Plains when the sidewalks were so crowded that it was hard to get around. People were here from all walks of life, from all over the world. And in that time period, they were hoping to get a glimpse of President and Mrs. Carter. You had the depot here, which of course the National Park Service owns now, but that was the campaign headquarters. We constantly had news reporters here. We had, when he won the Democratic nomination and then of course won the presidency, we had heads of state from all over the world who were here to get an audience with him. He interviewed all of his cabinet members here in Plains on the most part. It was an adventure, I guess, is what my family, my mom and daddy, made the decision to move out of town during that time period because it just, they had visitors or tourists who would come to town and just simply walk up to the door and want to come in and visit, because Daddy on the news is, he was a very down-to-earth person. He never met a stranger, so people just thought they could come up in the house and sit down and eat supper if they wanted to. So Mom and Daddy made the decision to move out of town, but that didn't slow anything down. We were always over here. Daddy had the filling station, so we were always over here. But it was bustling, to say the least. And the night that he won the presidency, you could not move in town. You could not move. And I remember I think now, Kim, you just did not know what was going on. I was in college when he won the presidency, and I got tired. I just got tired and went home and went to bed about 11:30, 12 o'clock that night, and it wasn't downtown when he came home, and I'm thinking, how dumb can you be, Kim? But, hindsight's 20/20. And when you're in college, you just do what you want to do, I guess. But it's much different now, much slower paced. It's not as slow as it was before he started running for president. But it's a good combination now of the two, I guess, of the two. So we're very proud of how Plains has evolved over the years and how well we've taken what the world thinks of us, too. I think we're very proud of that also. Sure.
And do you have a favorite story that comes to mind, that something that happened during the campaign with all those people there, or during the early presidency?
Well, let's see. Several stories pop up over and over again. you know, I was a big 4-H'er. I was a camp counselor here in Georgia, and I was in 4-H all through elementary school and high school. And one of my most favorite memories during his campaign, I was at Rock Eagle 4-H Center, which is up in North Georgia, and we had one TV in the whole camp. Of course, it's back in the 70s, and it was in the canteen. And the summer that he won the Democratic nomination, I was a camp counselor up there. And Dr. J, the man who ran the camp, told us, my group that I lived with, that we could go into the canteen that night and watch the Democratic convention. And so we all went in there, and sitting there, I was sitting on the floor at Rock Eagle 4-H Center, and on that little black and white TV, I watched Uncle Jimmy accept the Democratic nomination. I saw my mom and daddy and my grandma and people from Plains and other people from Georgia that I knew. And I think that's one of my most favorite memories, because there I was in a normal situation, but right there on TV was a very unusual situation going on in my life, and I was still able to kind of be a normal person. Not too long ago, I had a friend contact me. People were putting up their high school pictures and so forth and so on Facebook and all, and I did. And one of my friends from that time period sent me a message and said, that picture is a picture of the girl who told us that her uncle was going to be president of the United States, and we laughed at her. And I remember that. They all laughed at me. But after that night, they didn't laugh at me anymore. I don't think they really believed me.
I bet they didn't.
They probably didn't. But that's one of my favorite memories. That's one of my favorite ones. So.
Well, that's a great story. That is. It's a wonderful story. And I love how you mentioned that it was, you're just a normal person in a unusual situation in your life. And that's exactly, that's well said. And I love that story. That's great. You mentioned your grandmother, Miss Lillian, and she became famous during the 76 campaign. And she was an extraordinary woman with a great deal of accomplishments. Tell us about what she was like and a little bit about her life, and most importantly, what it was like to be her granddaughter.
Oh, but my grandma was she was my best friend. In fact, in my office here, 3 of the things I have on my wall, 2 of them are pictures of her, and one of them is my favorite quote of hers that I have framed on the wall. But Grandmama was just an extraordinary person. She was, and like I said, she was my best friend. To this day, there are times when something will go on or something will happen, and I'm thinking, how would Grandmama react to that? What would she say? And she'd be very blunt. I know that. She spoke the truth. She didn't flower anything. She made sure that what she said was, regardless of whether or not it would hurt your feelings. But I was very proud to be her granddaughter, because I was just, I guess I was almost enamored of Grandma, because she, on up in age, she didn't let anything stop her. My husband and I tonight were talking about someone who just has kind of decided she's ready to retire, she's ready to quit doing things and go in places. And I told my husband that I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to stop and just let time come by me. And that's what Grandmama was like. Of course, she passed away at 85, and up until then, she was going and doing. She was a nurse. She never saw a stranger. She loved everybody within reason. One thing that my grandma taught me is that my grandmama didn't see color. Everybody was treated the same in her eyes, and that's something that she's taught me. I don't see color very often at all either, and I have her to thank for that. she taught me how important that was. But I just, this quote of hers up here that I have on the wall, I used it before, and it says, if I had one wish for my children, it would be that each of them would reach for goals that have meaning for them as individuals. And I just take that to heart. And that was in one of the letters that she wrote home from India. And I have several of those letters that I keep and have put up to save for my children one day. And she was just an extraordinary person. And it's no wonder that Uncle Jimmy and Daddy and my Aunt Gloria and Aunt Ruth, all four, were so different within their own rights, because she taught them how to be that way, and I do miss her. I miss her. I really do.
Sure. And, you mentioned India. Could you tell us what she did in India?
She joined the Peace Corps when she was in her 60s. She turned 70 there, and she went to India and worked as a nurse in the Godrej colony there. She was there for 2 to 3 years and ended up just loving the area, loving the people. The area where she was had a very active, I guess that's the way you would put it, leprosy population. And that was one of the sicknesses, the diseases that she helped to treat while she was there. But she and another woman were both stationed there. She just decided one night that she had seen enough commercials about the Peace Corps that it was time for her to do something. And what she was going to do was join. And she did.
Wow.
And just over the years, she said, I'll never regret having done what I did. And so, children grow up with their parents just kind of throwing out that adage, eat all your food, there's starving children in India. And my grandmama told me, when she came home, she said, there are starving children in India. Don't ever complain about what you're eating at the table, because there are children who will never have what you have. And that's another lesson she taught us. But she loved being in India. She really did.
Yeah, she did a lot of great work there. I've read quite a bit about it, and it's just remarkable that somebody at that age would take on that. And she was certainly a woman of action.
Yeah.
As you said, she saw the need and she went there. I wanted to mention one other thing about your grandma. That back in the 1920s, when she was a nurse at Wise Sanitarium, and that caused history to be made there. If you want to talk about that.
Oh, yes. Grandmama decided, she was at work, and she was with her first child, and she just simply decided that she may be in labor, but it was not time to go home. So President Carter was, history tells us, the first president to be born in a hospital, and he was, but it was because his mama wanted to keep working. She did. So Uncle Jimmy was born in the hospital. The rest of them were born at home, like you were supposed to be back then, But he was born in the hospital. So
I just love that story. So I wanted to hear you tell it. And speaking of the Wise Sanitarium, we were talking a little while ago about how much history that Plains has. And that was a big piece of history that Plains had, was the Wise Sanitarium, when that was the Mayo Clinic of its time.
Oh, yeah, the three brothers. I mean, they were just renowned throughout the world for what they did. And we were very blessed during that time period to have them here. And they were hometown boys, too, who came back.
Sure.
And, oh, yeah. And, all the women who became nurses and worked there, it was just a win-win situation all around in our little tiny town during that time.
Yeah, again, the little tiny town that has so much significant history there, it's incredible. Um,
Yeah.
I, w- I wanted to talk a little bit about your father. He also became famous during the 76 campaign. And
Yes.
I know he was, portrayed on TV and in the media a certain way. And he was, I assume, very different in real life than what the media portrayed him. Could you talk a little bit about what your dad was like outside of the media?
Okay. Well, Daddy was an alcoholic. I mean, that's something, we can't erase. He was. But Daddy was, there's six of us. I'm the oldest of six children. And Daddy was a very loving father. He was very stern. When he told us it's time to do something, we had to do it. But he was also a very loving father. He supported us in everything that we did. He made sure that we had what we needed. He, he and my mama were, just a wonderful couple. He never met a stranger either. He was very well liked in town. He was always helping other people. Daddy would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it. After he passed away, so many people came to us and told us some of the things that Daddy had done for them, whether it was making sure their electricity stayed on, to, I will always remember, there was a wreck outside of town right after Christmas one year, and Daddy just happened to come along and went to help the people, and they had somebody had gotten to a house and called the ambulance to come help, and there was a little child who was hurt, and Daddy took off a jacket that Mama had just given for Christmas and wrapped that child up in it to make sure that it was warm. The child was warm, and I remember Mama, she said, I tried to get mad about the jacket, but when I realized, that was just what your daddy was going to do anyway. It didn't matter whether it was a new jacket or not. That's the way he was. Back during that time period too, he picked up hitchhikers all the time. We would come, and it's because he said one time, I was in the military. I knew what it was like trying to get home, and so if it was a serviceman, because we're pretty close to Fort Bend, and if it was a serviceman trying to get home for an event, a holiday or whatever, and Daddy came up upon him, he was going to pick him up. And I can remember waking up in the morning sometimes, and there'd be a strange person asleep on the couch, and it would be somebody Daddy had picked up. And this person would be at the breakfast table with us, and then Daddy would take them on to wherever it was they needed to go. A lot of people, you can't do that too much anytime, in these days and times, but back then you could. He
Sure.
he was our dad, and I said he drank, and that was not fun. That was not good. But we always knew that he loved us. And one of the proudest moments of our life is when he decided that he needed to get help. And it was a family affair when he went into the hospital, and we all were there when he decided to go to get help. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing.
Yes, and his service station became one of the most famous service stations in the country. It was on the news all of the time.
Oh
And
yeah.
can you
Oh yeah.
tell us what the service station is like now?
It's a museum now, and it's the Billy Carter Museum. And what used to be the Plainsboro hometown had it renovated, and everything in it, all the memorabilia belongs to my mama. There's some of Daddy's clothes in there, pictures, certificates, anything Billy Carter you need to find, it's in there. He had a beer named after him one time. There's a lot of that Billy beer memorabilia in there. But Mama's glad to have a place to put all of it. So she said I could get it out of the house. But some of the grandkids have gone through some of the clothes and things like that to have mementos of Daddy, because Daddy passed away before. There were only 3 of the grandchildren had been born before Daddy passed away. So Mama has 12. So the rest of the grandchildren, weren't alive when Daddy. Daddy wasn't alive when they were born. So they're fascinated with all the stuff in there.
Sure. And I know there's even some outfits that he wore when he was on TV, like on Hee Haw and that type of thing in there as well.
Oh yeah. All of his outfits are in there. His beautiful denim leisure suit with he was an Aries, so inside the jacket is a picture of him airbrushed on the silk, and his sign, his Aries sign. My son wore it. I asked Grandma if he could wear it one time for Tacky Day at school back when he was in high school, and Mama let him wear it, but she said your daddy would be so upset because you wore it for Tacky Day. Because Daddy was very proud of that suit. He loved it.
Well, Kim, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful talk, and I really appreciate you sharing your personal memories and the history of your home and family with everyone. And it's just on a personal note, I want to thank you so much for the Sunday school lessons that you do, and for all that you do to keep Plains such a wonderful place. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you tonight.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you, Larry. We're looking forward to the time when y'all can come back to see us. And thank you so much for letting me reminisce. This has been neat. I've enjoyed this.